Well, we've been looking into Revel and analyzing who actually oversees them for more than a week now. Prior to today's announcement, we found almost half of you on our Pix 11 poll didn't even know what Revel is. So let's begin there with a closer look at where they came from and how we got to today.
Revel has made the decision to shut down their service for the time being. And that is the right thing to do because no one should be running a business that is not safe.
After 2 deaths in 2 weeks, including the latest Tuesday morning along Queens Boulevard, where a 32-year-old crashed into a pole and died, Revel announced on Twitter they decided to temporarily shut down and reevaluate.
This is an unacceptable state of affairs.
Revel, in case you didn't know.
Welcome to Revel, an electric moped rideshare that makes getting around easier, quicker, and way more fun.
Is an electric moped that can travel up to 30 miles per hour when you rent them for 35 cents a minute. They first popped up in Brooklyn and Queens back in 2018, and then in the middle of the pandemic, expanded further to Manhattan and the Bronx.
I was a little bit wobbly at first.
Gabe Elizarov had never ridden anything more than a bicycle, but because the DMV classified Revel as a Class B limited-use motorcycle, you only need a regular driver's license with a clean record to ride one.
There's a balance between the benefits and the negatives.
Since launching, Revel boasted 300,000 rides. All you needed to do was watch a safety video first prior to your very first trip.
Today, we're going to learn the ins and outs of how to use the moped.
But the problems in recent weeks became clear. The company emailing its customers saying, "Hey, New York, we need to talk." Because in the past 6 weeks, 2,000 rider accounts were suspended for breaking rules like riding in a bike lane, over a bridge or on a highway, which is a no-no. And what we captured time and time again, not wearing a helmet. In fact, our cameras caught these 2 riders not wearing helmets, blowing a red light, almost hitting a pedestrian.
This is an unacceptable state of affairs. So the city has the power to regulate, to restrict, and even prohibit Revel scooters.
Over the past 2 months, we've seen an estimate of about 100 accidents in our emergency department.
Dr. Sarah Jameson had been witnessing firsthand safety issues for more than a month, raising red flags. What would you say is the most serious case you saw?
We see incidences that are very mild, things like just minor bumps and bruises, cuts and scrapes, but then we see things that are a lot more serious, like broken or fractured bones, concussions, and even brain bleeds. So it ranges in severity.
So how many cases do you have right now filed against Revel?
There are presently, I believe, 5 in suit and 3 pending, so a total of 8.
Daniel Flanzig is a personal injury attorney who says there were not enough studies prior to a New York City launch.
One is a gentleman riding his bike when he struck from behind by a Revel user, suffered a serious injury to his ankle, required surgery. There was no pilot program with Revel. They were dumped onto the streets, and the way we're learning whether or not they're safe is by the visits to the emergency room.
On the streets, we found a bike missing a mirror, one with a flat tire, one parked close to a fire hydrant. And then there's Gabe.
It started making beeping noises and the brakes were going on and off. So it was just stuttering back and forth and it just kept turning on and off. And I guess when it turns off, it has its own internal brakes that you don't have control over.
Revel tells Pix 11 the moment we're notified that a Revel is not functional, we make it unavailable to rent. That point, now moot really, as the company is temporarily suspending service with the mayor saying their return is now questionable.
We will not allow them to reopen unless we are convinced it can be done safely.
So the city council has the power to regulate and oversee, as they have in the past with something like a Lime scooter. Remember those? One councilman, Fernando Cabrera, actually told me prior to today's announcement they could look into oversight moving forward, which it seems will now be needed since this is making headlines. We will, of course, stay on top of this and keep you posted. In the newsroom, I'm Dan Manarino, Pix 11 News.